Oh man.
Yeah, you probably lost.
Yeah. Now, hopefully that new computer will show this, but I don't know. I'm not sure what's causing it. Whether it's the connection, whether it's the computer, whether it's a combination. You know, this fucks with that, and vice versa. I have no freaking clue.
Well, sometimes you start to get too many apps and stuff in there, and they're running in the background yet, within the system. Yeah. The only thing
we cleaned them out a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Joaquin and I cleaned those out.
That's
one thing I do know how to do on computers. Really
Two people.
I don't know how to do a whole lot on them, but I can be like Keith and just get myself in.
Got 5 now. Okay, well, it shows we got 6 people, 7 people. I guess people are getting used to this. Okay, let's just go back here and wait for Keith to come up again.
It's getting to be routine.
I'm dead, huh? Hi, guys. Hi, Mr. Lodak. I have a question. I'm still confused. I thought as a recreational miner in new, I could do up to 5 tons with no machines hard rock mining, or what is allowed with just a claim and no bond. That depends on what the local office says.
Yep.
Okay. Basically, if there is no significant disturbance, whatever that means. If suppose you could like drive up to the portal, walk in, mine stuff, throw it in your truck and drive off, you can probably do that forever. Okay. As long as you haul it off and never bring it back. But if you're doing a surface disturbance, if you're bringing your material back, things like that, then if you're doing sampling, theoretically, you can do a notice of intent.
Right.
Which, of course, is also not going to be processed now.
Well, maybe. I think it's going to depend on the local area.
Anything relating to permitting that has a surface disturbance.
But a notice of intent, you don't need a signature on it.
They have to approve it.
No, not a notice of intent is just basically you're just describing what you're going to go out and do. They do not.
And how can they require a bond on it?
Not on a notice of intent. Nope. There's no authorization on a notice of intent.
That may have changed. We'll see.
Well, according to the law, there's no.
Oh, the law.
Well, no authorization.
You're so old-fashioned.
Yeah. No, until you actually go to, plan of operation. A plan of operations is what they want you to file because then they can tell you no.
Goldstream thought we went to watch some stripers. No, I'm on a high-speed modem, 144 megabits per second. Yeah, I have no idea what's happening.
It's weird the way it drops out. It's just strange.
Yeah, I have no clue. I mean, it works fine for a while, and then it just goes wacko.
Argonaut, no, you can do if you've got a bank account ever, a banker you work with, you can just do a cash bond, 10% cash bond. And
explain how that works.
Well, your insurance company sometimes can do it too. You can do it through an insurance company as well. They can offer the bond. Let's say it's $10,000. You have to put up $1,000 to post the bond. And then if your reclamation, everything is done correctly, they have to give you your money back so that your money's just held in escrow, that bond. A banker can also give you a non-revocable letter of credit for the $10,000, and that will stand with BLM or the local Department of Environmental. Just a non-revocable letter so that a year or two down the road, if they go to collect on it, they can get it.
The modem does not like your subject matter.
Yeah, that might be.
I think it's more likely YouTube, but anyhow. I'm not sure exactly what you're doing. Executive order, sign on the claim, stop? Not sure. Goldstream says, I've been waiting 2 years for some bond money back. Did they actually sign off on the reclamation yet, Lincoln?
Well,
I mean, Goldstream?
Yeah, well, that can happen here too, Goldstream, because they want to see green grass on it. Well, if it's, late in the summer, you're not going to have green grass. And next year you might not either, depending on if it rains. So it can be 3 years or something here too, in some cases.
Go out to the creek with a pump.
well, actually, like what we were doing is when we were doing our reclamation concurrent with our mining, we were actually taking and running a 2-inch pump, pumping back on our reclaimed ground and seed it and water it. And hell, we had the deer in there and everything coming in at night because of all the little clover and things that were starting to grow already. It was kind of neat.
Goldstream says he doesn't even know if they've come to do the inspection yet.
Well, I don't know how you motivate employees of the government, but
yeah, it should be they've got so much time, and if not, it's automatically given back. But they write the laws.
Right.
And for some reason, they don't write the laws so they're disadvantageous to them.
No.
You
got to invite them out on a field trip to go out there maybe and tell them.
Some beer might be involved.
Yeah, or something.
Some stripers.
Some stripers.
Yeah.
We might get a lot of mileage out of this one.
Exactly, man.
Stripers and tinfoil hats. They got a new shtick.
Man, go fishing. Plan of operations generally first. Actually, you generally do a notice of intent if you're going to be doing low grade exploration sampling and like that. Right. And then a plan of operations would be if you're actually doing mining.
Right, or going to disturb a bunch of ground, open an old adit or something like that. Then you'll need a plan of operations for it.
Yeah, I've never seen a mine inspector out in the field. Yes, there's an old saying, sometimes it's better to get forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, beg for forgiveness.
So I take the ranger fishing, yes, and hopefully there will be a horrible boating accident.
They'll get eaten by a striper.
Eaten by a striper, huh?
In Boston Harbor, that can happen.
If you got video, then you might be able to get him to do it. Anyhow, getting a little far afield here. You're welcome, Mr. Fang. We're having a good time too. I just wish the internet would stop screwing up. Because it'll lock up and then I can't even get out of the program. I can't end the stream. That's what happened the time before last. I couldn't end the stream, so I just closed the window and YouTube said, "Oh, you didn't want to end it? Fine." Why ask first and get in the shit twice?
Well,
and the law is so ambiguous. Significant disturbance. If you do it in such a way that you can argue there's no significant disturbance, then it's like, I need a permit. Okay, fine.
The mining law here, actually, Montana, a man and a shovel and a pick cannot do significant disturbance. Mm-hmm. But they'll argue that down here at the Forest Service.
Yeah, Forest Service will.
Yeah, they'll argue that all day long. But that was the law here, that even if you dug for 7 years going up the drainage with a picks and shovels and by hand, you couldn't do significant disturbance. One person could not do that. Yeah. So, but they'll still argue just because it isn't their plan. They'd rather you're not here.
Is there a better way to separate gold from sulfide ore than roasting it first? Depends on the ore. You can finally crush the sulfide ore and effectively leach it under some circumstance without breaking down. You will usually get substantially better recovery if you do break down the sulfide.
Right. You
can do it chemically. You can roast it. You can use pressure oxidation. You can use bio-oxidation. In other words, there's a particular bacteria that actually eats the sulfur, combines it with oxygen, and gets its energy that way. That tends to be rather slow, but it's also very cheap. It also creates something called acid mine drainage. So you have to take that into account. If you just put it on heaps and just let it naturally oxidize, you're going to potentially have a pollution problem.
Right.
And they've tried, like big autoclaves, high temperature, high oxygen environments, etc. There's no magic bullet for the sulfide problem at this point that I'm aware of. But the first thing I would try would be, if I just finally grind it and then leach it, how good a recovery do I get? Because if you get 70-80% recovery that way, not too bad. Now, here's a real simple way to get the gold out of sulfides. Sell it to a refiner. If you have, let's say, a sulfide concentrate with, iron pyrite and 10 ounces to the ton, you can probably sell that to a refiner, and they won't charge you a whole lot of not royalty.
Premium.
No, it's not even a premium.
It's a cost of
I forget what the fee is. Essentially, it's a refining fee.
Right, processing fee.
But it's often 10 or 20% or less. And if you can get 90% of your gold for the effort of just shipping your waste product essentially to someone else and having them dispose of it, that's not a bad way to go.
No, versus setting up production facilities
Yeah.
somehow.
And so that's very often an excellent way of dealing with a pyrite ore, is to crush it, concentrate the pyrites and the gold, and then sell that to a refiner. And so check that out. The BR, there's also a company in Reno, Republic Metals. You might check with them.
There's one in Texas too.
Yeah, Stephen B. Outsource the hard as hell part.
Yeah, well, yeah. Why not? If you can.
Yeah, if you can.
If you can make the upgrade in the ore, like he said, to get the gold and the pyrites or whatever in a small, concentrated, then to ship it is going to be worth the drive or whatever.
Goldstream says, the government here cracked down a couple of years ago. What happened was some guys wanted to mine an area and they wouldn't allow machine operations. So they hired a bunch of guys with high bankers and shovels and left a major mess behind.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like
it sounds like government.
Sounds like the crazy.
Yep. I would not be surprised in the slightest. But yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people are unaware of, is you can take your concentrates and potentially sell them to a refiner and get rid of problems at the same time. For example, let's suppose you had a lead ore, okay, that had a bunch of silver in it. Well, trying to get the silver away from the lead is going to be a pain, and then you're still going to be left with the lead to dispose of in some manner. But if you just sell it all to the refiner, then you don't have to dispose of anything, and you'll get probably 90% of the silver.
You'll get a good number,
and maybe even a credit on the lead.
And you'd have, those other expenses that you'd have trying to do it yourself would be probably far more extensive.
And it used to be a lot easier around here. They had lots of smelters.
Well, you had smelters running here, and you had options.
Yeah.
And even, the flotation systems at some of the mines here would accept outside ore. So it wasn't so bad for the small miner. Well, in, the last, I guess, 35 years or so, 40 years, we've lost all that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, BR, that's what I would look at first. Here the problem may be arsenic, because trying to get rid of the arsenic legally is not going to be simple and straightforward. So that will be something we'll have to research. I know several years ago, there were some gentlemen in Oregon near Sumter that had an arsenal pyrite ore. And they said that it had to be shipped out of the country, and because the arsenic, the refiner was charging them 50%.
I suppose, but because...
On the other hand, if you can get 50% and have them handle it, and you can't get anything yourself,
if the ore grade's high enough, ore would have to grade high enough to say, yeah, it's worth mining. But
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just one of those things that you have to look at on a case by case basis.
The lead prices, everything's come up. The copper hit an 11-year high the other day. The metals prices are probably going to come up, and I doubt they're going to go away for quite some time because of the shortages in the long term over the next 10 years in the world are going to be astronomical shortages.
Yeah, as they don't get too afraid of it, BR, you have to check. Years ago when I was checking with Republic Metals, they were only going to charge me $800 a ton to refine the concentrates. And considering they were running about 8 ounces per ton, it was looking about basically a 10% premium, refining charge basically.
Right.
Which isn't bad at all.
You're going to have that. You'd have that if you were hauling dump truck loads of good ore in.
Yeah.
If you could haul to the smelter, like they did here, 40 years ago, you're going to have that upcharge where they're going to charge you for processing.
Yeah, there's always going to be a charge, but that doesn't mean it's going to be unreasonable. And by the way, if you're going to go fishing, you're going to need bait for the stripers. So you'll probably have to send it to a refiner anyway. It used to be a lot easier in the West out here. We had lots of smelters and such.
Gotta work on getting those back.
And there were lots of options. Down in Arizona, it was very common for people to mine quartz gold ore and haul it to the smelters because the smelter needed the quartz for flux. And so they'd give them, say, like 95% of the gold value, and they get their flux for free. It's like it's a good deal for them, good deal for the miners. But they've shut down basically all of the smelters.
Now there's a question I'm going to research.
Mm-hmm.
If you put together a mining district, would it be possible to get around some of the regulations and get smelters again?
No.
I don't.
That wouldn't do it.
Smelter would be a national EPA
that's an EPA issue
of the
there.
Processing size.
No, we got to do something about the EPA anyway.
Well, we'll see what happens over the next few years. It's hard to tell what's going to happen where. But I will tell you this, a historical fact, starving people are not patient people. If you're roasting. Huh. That's interesting. That's not the usual way it is, but says the gold associated with the galena rather than the pyrite.
Well, that would be temperature in that, in that.
Nature's complicated.
Yeah, right. Very complicated.
Nature's complicated.
A lot of it they still haven't figured out.
I sure haven't.
That's for me either. I thought of best guesses.
Oh.
I'll go back and do more homework.
It's just a wild ass guess. Yeah, it is cool. I knew a mine down in Mexico there a friend of mine owned. They got a wolfenite crystal this big.
Wow.
Yeah. It was worth $80,000 after they broke it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wolfenite is beautiful.
It's a plan.
Gas smoking doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. Now, here's another thing you can possibly do. Once you've got your concentrates, see if you can easily recover some of the gold from it in a reasonably pure form and then ship the rest off to the refiners to get the rest of the gold. And then that other gold, there's no record of, and you can hold on to it until you sell it. You don't have to pay taxes.
It may operate your mine. That little bit of free gold you get out might be enough to operate your mine.
I'd operate it on the check from the refiner.
Well, I would too.
And I'd put the other stuff
you gotta show that
in the safe, because then I say that the check from the refiner now is your official income stream, and the other stuff just disappears.
Didn't exist.
And it's perfectly legal until you sell it.
Didn't exist.
Yep.
Got lost.
You're welcome, BR.
Boating accident.
And now galena and silver, that's a very common combination. Absolutely.
Oh,
Glad to help smoking. That's what we're here for. That and the stripers. We're going to run this one into the ground. We're miners. We run everything into the ground.
yeah.
That's the whole purpose, right? Oh. So, anyone else got a question here? Golly gee, it's only been 3 hours and 40 minutes minus 27 minutes for breaks.
I got a question.
Okay, what?
You know that dude that's been running the commercials about the beanies made out of silver that block EMF and like 5G?
I'm not sure what they're lined with, but go ahead.
They're actually made of silver impregnated yarn.
I'm not the electronics guy, but I think they'd have to be grounded to actually work.
Yeah.
If anyone knows, let me know. But somebody actually made that comment with your
like
aluminum
a
hat.
cage or something. You
Yeah.
have to ground it.
You know, bonding, would that affect dollars? I presume you mean the profit margin. Not in the long run, theoretically, because theoretically you get your bond back after you reclaimed it. But apparently, sometimes it's hard to get your bond back. Yeah. Yeah, Goldstream, they're selling. There's also leasing. Leasing has the option. You don't give up control. It's only good for as long as they have it. And you can get a percentage in the lease. And sometimes that's quite valuable or not. But I tend to lean more towards leasing than selling, unless it's a really good price. I mean, if someone's dumb enough to offer you $1 million for a $250,000 property, yeah, it might be hard to resist. You know?
Yeah.
Also, claims being sold online are ridiculously overvalued.
Yeah, you definitely want to look at your own property a little there.
Oh yeah.
Because that's
Well, and that's one of the advantages of a
You hit-
lease too, is it can give variable compensation depending upon what's there, and especially with hard rock where it's
Well,
expensive to
right.
test.
Sometimes a lease can give you the opportunity to have somebody else spend their money doing the testing.
And the,
You know,
the
yeah,
operation.
and possibly the operation. It might be, you know, the incentive might be you'll make more money by leasing the property and retaining a 10% on it for the gold, like in a placer. You may make more money on the 10% than if you actually mine it yourself by the time you go through all the fun. You know, because you're not taking the risk then. All you're doing is reaping the 10%. You know, so that it's always something to think about.
Yep. Stephen B, opinions on shaker tables. Not sure if we're going to go down that rabbit hole yet. The one opinion I have is test your ore on the shaker table first. I mean, see if you can go to the manufacturer and run it on one of their tables.
They'll usually do that. They'll take a sample and see.
It may cost you a little bit, but
Well, usually they'll do it for free if they want to sell you one.
yeah. But it's one of those things that if you don't test it, you don't know if it's going to work or not. I mean, like this Montana B ore, I guarantee you would not work. Not even close. Ryan's ore might work fairly good. But yeah, you definitely, everything you want to check on a small scale first before making a major expenditure. Then get him a few stripers. Might work.
You never know.
I don't know.
You never know. Really, the advantage smoking, and we've talked about it here, just start doing some historical work of your own in an area you're interested in, or something that's, an area that you've been in before. Just start looking for historical records of mines in that area, and then go put that against BLM or whatever to see what's open, what's already claimed in that area, and start zeroing in from there.
BR, yeah, I would say that's a hot. Well, I would say more than 90% of acting mining claims never get mined, and the thing that throws that even that big a thing is a lot of those mining claims. Big mine will have a whole bunch of mining claims that they'll put down. So it's one operation is 50 mining claims, but yeah, most mining claims just sit there and then that person dies or gives it up and somebody else picks it up. And yep. Argonaut, when roasting silver sulfide ore low in galena, should I add lead as a collector metal? I just want to refine some silver from the Calico area of California for fun. Well, I would suggest you try both. If you're just doing it for fun, try both, see what happens, and go from there. If it's not terribly important, then you can save that. And if it makes a big difference, then you have to. I'm not that big on. Okay, Patrick says, we used ungrounded window screen to stop microwave signal towers from wiping out the signal in C-band satellite TV dishes. Cool.
Oh, see, we learned something again tonight.
Okay, so the dude that is selling the woven silver caps as opposed to a homemade tinfoil hat may actually be selling something that would work. Okay.
Yeah.
Jimmy's a question.
Jimmy says shaker table better than any other water gravity equipment.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I would agree with Jim here. It's a good one and it's proven over time, but it's not necessarily the best.
It's the ore
in a particular situation, and it definitely doesn't mean it's going to work on any particular ore.
It's the ore you're dealing with is what you're going to get for separation.
I actually saw one report one time where they were using a particular thing, and they were recovering gold down to 5 microns with it, supposedly. But I have no idea how accurate. But I mean, it was a government report, not a just some company said this, that, or the other. Adam, good evening, Keith. I'm taking chemistry
on a
this
small
semester.
scale. If you're roasting it, you could also prell it with lead, couldn't you? And actually smelt it yourself.
Pardon?
Couldn't you prell it with lead then after you roast it, and then prell it, and then pour it in a crucible? I mean, literally.
That's what a fire assay is.
Right. I mean, right.
Yeah.
Basically do the same thing as a fire assay on a little bigger scale.
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally pour gold bars in your garage.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be done.
You need to build a furnace.
It's nice if you can get a concentrate that's good enough for direct smelting, i.e. just using a flux. You don't have to use a collector, but doesn't happen all the time. Taking chemistry, but do you have any interesting chemistry facts about gold? Does it react to anything? It reacts to a lot of things, not very common things. Mainly halides, chlorine, bromine, iodine, things like that. I think it needs an oxidation potential to do it.
There are halide leaching methods.
But yeah, cyanide also requires an oxidation potential, but it can definitely be dissolved in a number of ways. Thiourea, which is an organic fertilizer, actually, it will also dissolve gold. If you want to know a lot about that, there's a book, Recovery and Refining of the Precious Metals by C.W. Ammen, A-M-M-E-N, that has a lot of information on the chemistry of gold and how to refine gold and other precious metals. So it's a very